Welcome to No Options with Ty Gibson, the show where life's toughest trials become the foundation for your greatest triumphs. Real stories, raw conversations, and the unwavering belief that you were built to overcome. Now, here's your host, Ty Gibson.
Hey guys, I am excited to be here today. As I always say, we always have some really cool guests, but I've got another one today, guys. I mean, I consider a friend from back in the day and out in the Georgetown area and the Florence area. But man, it's been an honor to get to know Ben Daniels. Ben, thanks for being with us today.
Certainly my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Guys, I want to tell you something. Ben has been involved with quite a bit and been successful in a lot of things. Business owner, doing a lot of things in our community. I think a lot of land, right, Ben? Just a lot of land development. And I just remember when I first moved to Georgetown, Ben was one of the early ones that I got to meet. And I've really enjoyed knowing Ben over the years. But I'll tell you guys, I want to tell you, there's a lot of places in Texas, and I go all over Texas, and I always find some really cool towns, but I want to tell you guys, Ben is from a place that I never heard of. I got to admit, Ben, I never heard of it, but guys, Ben Daniels is from Ding Dong, Texas. And I mean, I had to start with that, Ben. I just want to know a little bit about Ding Dong, Texas. Well, can we start there?
Absolutely. Yes. So very proudly from Ding Dong, Texas. Ding Dong is a small community. It was probably grander in yesteryear, but it's still on the map. So we still carry that title. It's a community that's, if you go south from Killeen or north from Georgetown on 195, right where 195 crosses the Lampasas River, that area was considered, and still for us considered Ding Dong, Texas. So our farm where I grew up is about 3 miles from that location. So we proudly claim Ding Dong as our home.
That's awesome. I mean, I love it. And so you said there was a store. Tell them that, right? There was a store right there in that area.
There was a store, and I've heard many stories about that store. But that store had, as a matter of fact, our church just received the original sign that was on that store. So our church possesses the sign that says, whatever, the country store, Ding Dong, Texas.
That's cool.
So yeah, another very proud historic thing for us. Doesn't mean much to others, but certainly it means a lot to us.
Well, sure. I mean, not many people can say they're from Ding Dong, Texas. And I'm sure there's not a lot that at all can say that. But that's
a great conversation starter when you walk up and introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Ben Daniel from Ding Dong, Texas.
That'll get some curiosity going really fast, won't it?
It does. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, guys, again, Ben's done a lot, but Ben, you're the mayor of Florence, Texas, man, and I'll tell you, being involved with some city government for a while, that's not an easy task, and I want to thank you for what you're doing in Florence, and I know you've made a difference out there, but how is Florence, Texas, and tell us a little bit about Florence, if you will.
Yes, so Florence, Ding Dong it's just kind of a title, a bump in the road. Florence is actually the town, what we called our hometown. As you go from Georgetown north on 195, Florence is about 15 miles north, and small town right now it's around 1,500 people, and a very proud rural community, very strong rural economically. Now, a big part of that economics here is the quarries that have popped up. And most people have no idea that Williamson County is the #1 mining county in the state of Texas. And it's because of our quarries. The limestone that comes out of here goes all over the world. But anyway, so it was, formerly it was agricultural base. Florence had the railroad that ran to it because of the agricultural base. Cotton was the big crop that was produced here, and there were 3 cotton gins actually at one time in Florence. The railroad from Bartlett came all the way to Florence to pick that cotton up, to take it back to Highway 95 area, back toward Bartlett area, to be dispersed through the rail lines. And there's a lot of history about that. There's no railroad to Florence anymore, but there was quite a bit of history surrounding that railroad. And And we actually own a corner in the city. My wife and I own the corner that was the end of the line. And we have found, we had some of the team from the archaeology department of UT come and do a dig there, and they actually found the bulkhead where the rails lined up to this concrete bulkhead. All that was discovered, and so that, yeah, that's lots of history there. The biggest history for Florence is that goes back probably older than any other in North America. Florence has a place just a few miles east of town. It's called the Galt site. The Galt site is an archaeological site that was discovered by Dr. Mike Collins, and there's been a movie this past couple of years that have been released about his life and his securing of that property. That property has rendered archaeology over 1 million artifacts. It certainly will, as they go through the artifacts, redefine human history, but it goes back about 20,000 years of human habitation. So we can claim, and they tell me please don't make it singular, but we are one of the oldest human habitation sites in the Western Hemisphere.
Wow.
So yeah, that's exciting for us. So we
Yeah.
see that people have been coming to Florence for tens of thousands of years.
That's awesome. You know, in Florence, I mean, and guys, if you haven't been to Florence, I mean, it like you said, it's a small town, but man, the work that you guys have been doing out there and the things that are going on, and that I'm telling you guys, that Galt site is something else. I did not know a lot about it prior to me getting involved with the city of Georgetown and kind of learning a lot about it. And I tell you what, that's an impressive thing out there. And so, if you haven't had an opportunity, I mean, check out a lot of information about the Galt site. You can check it too. So, but Ben, I want to talk a little bit. Hey, man, as a mayor of Florence.
Well, let me quickly plug. So the
Yes,
Galt
please go ahead.
tours. I mean, I think it's almost every weekend they have tours.
Yep.
galtschool.org, galtschool.org, and they'll find a place on that site for getting their tickets to do
Okay.
it. So, and they also go to the Williamson County Museum in Georgetown, downtown Georgetown, or the Bell County Historic Museum to also get those tickets.
Good.
Okay.
And say that again, Ben. Say that site again.
Galt School, GAULT School, all together, .org.
.org. Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, as the mayor, I know you run into some things there, and as we all do, right? We all have adversity we deal with every day. But as we talk about a lot on this show is how we deal with adversity. How do we, what's our mindset? And I know you. I mean, you've got a very strong base, and I'm going to talk about that real quick too, because not only has Ben the mayor, but also Ben has been a pastor. He still is an ordained pastor and highly involved with his church. So going in as the mayor and having the right mindset, I am so thankful for you to be able to share some of that within your community. So, but talk about you as the ordained pastor, but also how that relates into and how being the mayor of Florence and some of the things that you deal with. How does that all work? What does a day look like for you out there?
Well, I would say the ministry question is probably to me the easiest one. I just don't feel any separation. The life that I live to honor my faith in my Lord Jesus Christ. And that's my whole life. That's not my church life. That is my professional life, my family life. All of that falls under the heading of I'm a servant of Christ.
That's right.
I don't have any distinction. Serving as mayor is just another piece of that. I felt very confident that was part of what I needed to do, and I felt the direction of God to do that, and we've done that. And so yeah, no, I don't separate
I
life.
love that. I
You know,
do.
it's life.
It is, Ben. I want to stop you real quick on that. I'm sorry to interrupt there, but that's a good point. I mean, you're a faithful man as Ben Daniels, not as just on Sundays, as we should say, right? I mean, you are able to do that, and I think that's a good point, that you make, and I love that. So, but keep going if you will.
Well, there's in our involvement in city government, certainly we felt providential. So that I don't want to separate that part, but we saw practically some things that needed needed correction, and we felt like we had the skill set to engage in that, and we've embarked on that. The main thing that we've done is we've tried to turn around. The city had really no promotional campaign whatsoever, so we've tried to turn that around. So our promotional, it's approved, council approved promotional motto for the city is Florence, Texas is a great place to gather. And I use my own experience. I mean, I don't know exactly why it feels, maybe it's a cultural thing, or but it is just when you get to Florence and you sit down and have a meeting in our coffee shop or diner or whatever you do, it feels like this is where you're supposed to be for this meeting. I mean, it just feels inviting and culturally accepting and all that. So, and I don't have all those answers. I'm here to tell you it goes back 20,000 years. People have been gathering in Florence for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it. Some might call it magical. I don't know. It's just an amazing place to gather. So that's our motto. So that's kind of beginning the process of promoting the city, using kind of this historic, this 20,000-year-old history as kind of our backbone that, hey, people have been coming here a long time. There's something special. You might want to come and visit. And we have seen a tremendous increase in visitation to the city, and so we're working to continue. That's how the city is able to provide quality of life services for its citizens. I mean, through our sales tax, through our property tax values increasing. So if we can get enough sales people coming here spending money, if they come to a Galt site, anybody that comes to a Galt site, make sure you come on to Florence and have a bite to eat, buy your fuel in Florence, all that, because that helps the city through sales tax. And so we're working on that, and then that's going to lead to further development like residential neighborhoods, commercial property being developed, and that increases our property tax values, and that's how we continue to stay solvent as a city.
That's great. Yeah, I'm excited you're there. Like you said, I think you're at the right place because I mean, as you just said, it just feels right, right? So you feel like you're at the right place, and that's when you know you're at the right place when it feels right. So also, Florence is. I mean, the things you're doing is amazing. Again, bringing some changes from just marketing and promoting, but you also, I mean, your business side of things. You've done a lot in business, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. I mean, gosh, I mean, Ben, I can go back to the days of. I mean, you own buildings here in Georgetown, and I know you have some out there in land, but like you own the Georgetown muffler shop was it under your name, and you ran and it still exists and doing well with Shane's leadership, I think. And so I want to talk a little bit about leadership and some of the things in business that you've done and maybe what you contribute that to, because I will tell you, I've always been a little envy of what you can. I have to kind of stay focused in a lane, and you're able to do multiple things, and I'm always been a little jealous of that. So how do you maintain these things and be successful in business and leadership of cities, and what are some of your tactics you've done that you can talk about there?
Yeah, I would probably start maybe back a little further in that I was the first generation in our family that went to college and always felt like that. And although my first half of my career was what we would consider a working class environment, I ran an automotive shop for over 20 years. And many would consider that working class or whatever. And I'm not trying to make a class distinction here at all. I'm
Yeah.
just recognizing there's different opportunities there. And because I was able to get a college education, it did open up other opportunities for me later. But I really felt like for our family generally, for my father, mother, and how our family progresses in our generations, that I was supposed to bridge between some of these distinctions, go from like a working class to more of a professional class, which is what I've kind of been able to do with my life. And I certainly want that to be an example for my kids so they can even take another step forward in all that and create a more generational success and not just an individual success, but generational with my kids and so forth. But okay, so the other question was the diversity of yeah, it's very diverse. I've been involved in so many things. I'm not sure. As I look at my life, it's difficult to compartmentalize those things sometimes mentally. Even presently, I have a business in the financial sector, and then so that's a business. It's I work 3 days a week into that, so I have to balance that with being mayor, which really is a full time job, even for a small city. It's still you're called upon all the time. And really, you're if you're not making decisions, you're preparing for decisions with copious amounts of reading and study. Do your best to make a decision for the so compartmentalizing is probably what, if we're going to talk about challenges, that's my primary challenge, is learning how to, when I'm on the road in my company and I get a phone call from City Hall and I have to stop, pull over, make a decision, learning how to shut something off. And I usually, the method that I use in terms of leadership, I would use it, is the hat method. I physically, I'm taking this hat off. I do this physically with my hand. I'm putting this hat on. Somehow there's a psychological thing that happens, I guess. But when I do that, I'm putting this hat on. Now I'm doing, at church, I do the same thing. I'll be talking to somebody. We're just talking about chewing the breeze kind of stuff. And I'll say, okay, guys, I'm now moving from our buddy hat. I'm gonna put the pastor hat on. Everybody understand what I'm doing? Okay. And then we go from there. And I think that does create appropriate perspectives, both for me and for whoever might be listening, and vice versa. But yeah, automotive shop. Well, had that for many years. Moved toward into the, I guess you call it, commercial real estate, and got involved in that and owned multiple buildings. I think at one time in Georgetown we had 8 buildings. We have 0 buildings in Georgetown. We've sold everything. We felt like when God moved us to Florence that He wanted us to be focused in Florence. So we came here. We started buying property here. So now we own 2 downtown buildings in Florence. We own our home here, and then we own another vacant lot that's probably one of the primary visibility lots in the city. And we'll do something very positive, or we'll sell it to somebody that'll do something very positive on that property. But yeah, it's um,
That's awesome.
part of the answer is I don't know. I don't know how I do it, and I try to stay as focused as I can.
Yeah.
I do feel like one day maybe I'm going to have the opportunity to focus on a single thing, and I look to that with great anticipation. Man, to be able to focus on a single thing.
That'll be nice. But
Yeah,
I do love the physical taking a hat off. I think, because we talk about different things, everybody has different ways of their mind, and that's a mindset, right? I mean, you're doing a physical action, but it's also changing the way you think, right? All right, now you just said it works for you, right? And I think that's that's a neat point. I mean, sometimes when we're you know dealing with things in life, sometimes we got to say, all right, I got to take my parent hat off for a minute, or I got to take this off to do. And I think that makes sense, because sometimes we feel like it's just overwhelming. We got so much stuff coming at us just in life in general. Maybe I need to start trying this physical hat thing. I like that. I do like that a lot. I think that's a neat step. Now, Ben, again, I know you you just a great family man, right? I mean, your kids or your family, your generational family, all this is so important to you. And one of the things I learned about you, and I think is a very neat, and I remember this back years ago, but every Saturday morning, you get up and you would have breakfast with your family. Talk about that, because I think that is something that everybody gets to do, but not everybody even that maybe could do it. So that's such a cool story. Will you talk a little bit about that?
yeah. I think a lot of people, they see us. We'll go to a cat, and we've always met in Florence, by the way, always. So it's at that, and when we started this tradition, I lived in Georgetown, and my parents lived in Killeen, so Florence was in the middle. So it's always been the place for us to gather. So that's our experience, certainly. And people observe that. They'll see us show up, and we're very loving. And when we depart, we always embrace. And we've had people comment about how loving our family is. It's such a great thing to watch and see and whatever. But what most people don't know is why that tradition started. And it started back 20 plus years ago with a friend of mine from high school whose dad died suddenly about 30 years ago. And it was devastating for him. I mean, I couldn't believe it, so young. And he made a comment to me. He said, "Man, if I just had one more meeting, one more day with my dad," and man, it just tore my heart out to hear him say that. But it also made me, it just made me, I mean, just solid toward this point. I have got to make sure that I don't have that regret.
Yeah.
So that next weekend, I called my dad and said, "Hey, would you like to have breakfast?" And he said, "Sure." So we had breakfast, and I said, "Hey, would you like to make a commitment to do this on a regular basis so that you and I have nothing unsaid?" This, my friend had said, "There's just things that were left unsaid. And if I had one more day," and I thought, I don't need that. I mean, life is hard enough. Why do we need to add things like that just gnawing at us, creating bitterness in us? And so my dad was agreeable as I expected he would be. And it has become, Christ has this statement, "I have come that you might have life and life more abundantly." I would have to say that that abundant life that he's promised is not possible without these kind of relational connections with your family and friends. It's just not possible, because I would consider that Saturday morning and over these years as a life. It has been glorious. The stories that I've learned about his history and family, and then causing me to have connection because of that, and understanding where I've come from, and all those things that have happened over these years because we took the time. And then so that goes now our grandbabies. So today we get to see our grandbabies. We have two grandbabies, 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we pick them up 4 days a week from childcare, and they come spend about an hour and a half with us before they're picked up by their parents. So we have that luxury, and that's most grandparents don't have that luxury. We do, and we are so grateful. But Fridays, that's ice cream day. So we pick those babies up, and they know when we pick them up, we're going to the ice cream shop. Oh, by the way, Florence does have an ice cream shop. So it's a great place to gather for those reasons too. But we pick those babies up every Friday and take them to get ice cream. And now their routine is very similar. They understand that we're going to spend time together, and we're going to have this, and they have their favorite flavor already picked out, and sprinkles and all that wonderful stuff. And it's just such a blessing. Family is truly abundant life. It really is.
That's awesome. And it's so true. Because I unfortunately I lost my dad early, and so man, it's I really treasure what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so man, guys, I mean, that's a great deal, and then it's never too late to start, right? I mean, Ben started. How long has that been going, Ben?
So over 20 years now. Yeah,
What a cool story.
it really, if you really, what that put me on a pathway where I left breakfast one day and drove. This is 10 years ago. I left breakfast and I drove kind of a different way home than I normally would have. And I saw a sign on a piece of property, and it was at the intersection. I could see the sign. So I drove the other way to see this piece of property that was available. And so made a phone call. I thought it was affordable. This was in 2017. It was affordable. And so I called a friend of mine, and said, "Hey, you want to go in on a piece of property? You're a builder. We can buy this land real cheap. We can put two houses on it, two spec houses, and we'll sell them, make some money." And that's the conversation. He said, "Sure. Where's it at?" I told him. He said, "I'll pull it up." So we pulled it up. He said, "Yeah, it's a good deal. I think we can make money on that." He said, "Do you want me to go buy it and make it? And then I said, "Sure," because he has real estate stuff. I said, "Sure, go ahead." This is exactly how the conversation went. And so he went and bought it, and he got with me at 3 days later and said, "Hey, the closing is going to be on this day, and I've already done the estimates. We're going to do a little engineering work to split these into two lots, et cetera, to build two houses. Here's how much money is your half, and this other will be my half." And so that's how we did it. Built two houses, and in 2018, when we're finished with these two houses, my wife and I had an opportunity, because at that point we owned two houses. Who owns two houses at one time? So we had a choice. So Florence just felt more like home at that point than Georgetown, and so we sold our stuff in Georgetown and moved into one of those spec houses that we built. And so it set me on a pathway that qualified me to be mayor. And that pathway was really started because I came to Florence every Friday or every Saturday to meet my dad and mom, and it opened up these doors of opportunity, these pathways. Sometimes the Lord will lead you down a road, and you think the destination of that road is the destination. It's not. Sometimes you head down that road toward a certain destination only because the road that you need to take is only exited from that road. And so sometimes the Lord takes you down that so he can get you to the place to exit you off of that path onto another path. And I feel like that happened in Florence for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, just another reason you're knowing you're in the right place. So that's awesome. But as far as just the family and how important family is, and not everybody has the same situation. I get it, but if you don't have family, good friends, and community, and all of that, but I really hope people understand how important that is, because, like I said, talking from somebody that's not able to go have breakfast with my father, and it's important. If there's any young folks out there, or not, even if you still have your parents are still around, make an opportunity to spend time with them, as Ben said. I think that's such a cool deal. Well, Ben, and then also you're involved with your church. Obviously, we said you're ordained minister and all that. What role do you still play out at the church out there in the Florence area?
So I still carry a pastoral title, which is kind of interesting. When I told my pastor I was going to run for mayor, he said, "How are we going to make this work?" And I said, "I don't know. Well, we'll figure it out as we go. Why don't we just figure it out?" And he said, "Well, sure." It was just kind of a joke and fun and whatever. And it is still a lot of fun. A lot of people at church call me Pastor Mayor. But I think that's a way that we've tried to work through. How do you figure these things out? The truth is, in that house, I know who's in charge, and it's not me,
Yeah.
our pastor. So, I mean, I don't have zero issue with the authority structure. Now, when we come to town, it's different, but everybody understands that I would be the one in charge in the city, but we just work through those things. And so my title at our church is the leadership development pastor. So I support our entire lead team. So my congregation is far smaller than my pastor's congregation. Pastor's congregation is our congregants, our attendees. My congregation is our leaders. There's approximately 30 leaders in the church. That's my congregation. So that's who I support. Most of that support is truly the same thing we've been talking about. It's
Yeah.
developing relationship together. And
Right.
the truth is, here's the real truth. The truth is discipleship. Everybody talks about discipleship. Discipleship, the word in the Bible for disciple is learner. So discipleship is being a learner of how Christ relates to humanity, how he relates to people. And us learning that is discipleship, learning how to do that and then following through in our own lives, allowing Christ's example to become our action precursor. We do what he does. So the way he relates to people, the way he sought out the poor, the downtrodden, I mean, he sought them out. It's the way we should be relating. So that all I'm doing, even as a leadership development pastor, is just learning to relate to these folks, finding out what their needs are, helping them discover purpose. All those wonderful things that we do within the boundaries of an intimate relationship. Yeah, that's what I do as a pastor
Yeah.
at our church.
That's awesome, and just another way you're making an impact. But you talk about purpose, and I love the word purpose, but I think it's used in a lot of different ways. But I think the best definition I ever saw of purpose was the best we have to help others. What the best we've been given to help others, and I think
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. But Ben, I want to, if you're talking to a younger soul out there that just wants to get involved, and what are some things you learned through your path? What would be some encouragement? Because you've always been such a positive person, and you look at the way you look at things, because I talk about all the time, it's how we approach things. But what are some takeaways that you would give somebody with your knowledge and your experiences? What are some things that you would encourage or talk about there?
Yeah, it's the things that I know that are innate, that are built in. The scripture tells me that God put eternity in the heart of man. That means all of us have this sense and understanding of eternity. And it's a wonder that a being that does have a beginning and does have an end. I mean, we all are going to all die at one point. How would we even have an understanding of eternity unless it was placed in us? But we all think about life after dying. All of us, we think about what happens and all that stuff. Why do we even have that concept unless it was placed inside of us? So I would answer the question by saying, I appeal to all those things that are innate. A young person they're not inoculated from the same types of connections that I desire. They have the same ones. We have that as part of the human condition, that we need each other. We need, and we're better together. So I appeal to all those things. It's a wonderful thing happening in our country. I don't know if you followed some of the statistics, but the fastest growing segment of the church today, when I say church, it would be all denominations of the Christian church. The fastest growing segment is that millennial segment. It goes up to about mid 30s, somewhere right in there, late 30s, down to somewhere around the mid 20s, that section. The fastest growing segment in the church. These are young people seeking the same thing that we saw ourselves. I mean, so those are the things I appeal to. Purpose is certainly a big part of that. Helping young people understand that God made you for a reason, and there's gifts and callings inside of you that are to be used to better this world, and to be used not just for yourself, but used outside yourself, and used to better your neighbors, and make the world better, problem solve, and all those things. We all have a different thing, and discovering that thing is our life's work. But the scripture tells me that God does nothing outside of purpose. So my life and your life and everyone we speak to, their existence at this moment in time is a purpose of God to do something in this world to make this world better.
I love it. I love it. That's great. That's for sure. And some of us beat, and I'll be the first one to say, younger years I would kind of beat my head thinking I had the plan right, and I was, obviously I learned that that's not the way it works, and so I always try to encourage some of these younger folks to maybe not follow the track I did on some of that, and listen to the words like what Ben's talking about, because those are so true. Once we realize that, it's amazing. It's an amazing experience to see what God's plan is for us. So Ben, and again, I just want to, in closing, is there any words or anything that we left out that you would want to share with our group?
I guess this thing about relationship, it is the purpose of life. Jesus said the two greatest commandments are love God and love each other. Those are both relational. And what that tells us is that our lives and our contentment in life, enjoyment, understanding our purpose is all going to be part of a relational concept. And the quicker we learn how to relate to each other and respect each other and love each other, and the word love, well, I use the acronym LOVE is lifting others vertical eagerly. And that idea that I'm here to help and support and lighten the load and uplift someone's downtrodden. You see people that are downtrodden, their chins are to their chest, but lifting those chins up and saying, you're a victor no matter what. You're here for a purpose, and trying to help them discover all that. This is the, I guess, the phrase. The phrase is, and thank God that I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I'm a career entrepreneur. I mean, I'll throw the dice on a business deal, and it drives my wife crazy. Otherwise, I'm the tightest guy in the world. I won't spend money for nothing. But on a business deal that's going to make money, I'll roll that dice. Well, that entrepreneur spirit is a risk spirit that risks. And I would just encourage everyone. I mean, we've all been hurt in relationships. We all wonder, are they worth it? Yes, they're worth it. That's the very essence of life. Life is relationships. So you have to learn to be a relational entrepreneur, a risk. You have to take risk on human lives. And and I'm not telling you you're not going to get hurt. We're all going to get hurt by these things. Humanity makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect. But we have to be willing to take a risk. And the reason why is because it's the prize. That prize that's set before us is connecting with another human life. And there's no greater prize than that.
That's awesome. Yeah, those are great words. And man, I think just listening to you this morning, it was meant to be. I needed that this morning, and I love that. I love those words. God, Ben Daniels, man, you have been like I said. I love every time I'm around you. You're a positive person, and you're uplifting people, and constantly just what you just talked about. You're helping others all the time, and I personally appreciate that in you. But guys, Ben is, like I said, the mayor of Florence. If you guys please get out there, visit Florence, Texas. Stop by the office if you get to. Say hello to Ben, and go have lunch, as he said, or breakfast at some of their cafes there in Florence. Ben, thank you so much. I really appreciate your words this morning, and man, it's good to reconnect with you.
You bet. Hey, let's get together. Let's get the wives together. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to No Options. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment and leave a review. And more importantly, please share it with someone who may need to hear it. You can find more stories, resources, and ways to connect over at my website, tygibson.com. And that is Gibson with a P, TYGIPSON.com. Remember, no matter where you are, your story isn't over yet if you live like you have no options. I'll see you next time.
You know Ty Gibson is an entrepreneur, a relentless survivor. Did you know he's also a powerhouse speaker? After overcoming 3 transplants of juvenile diabetes, he built thriving businesses with one mantra: no options. Ty transforms adversity into action. His keynotes ignite audiences with real-world resilience and 30-plus years of sales mastery. Are you ready to inspire your team? Book Ty Gibson today as your next speaker. You can call 512-944-4780 or head over to tygibson.com. That's Gibson with a P. It's time for your event to share the motivation that is no options.